Thank you. Wow. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Sean, for that amazing introduction. I'm so happy to be here and see everyone and see the students who I really care about and who I know will make the future of hospitality as bright as it can be. So let me start off with a story. I remember vividly how the carpet felt. I was sitting crisscross applesauce in a line in my kindergarten classroom, and although we were in a line, it was formal, yet welcoming. We were watching Ratatouille, and I watched as Remy, the rat, threw ingredient after ingredient into a pot, making the best dish that restaurant had ever seen. And I knew that I could do it. I went home that night and tried reaching for a cabinet that was almost twice my size for some spices, throwing it into a pot of boiling water, trying to recreate this dish that Remy had recreated. It wasn't as good, but in that moment, it felt as though I was breathing for the very first time. I knew that I loved food. Now, if that 5-year-old child came up to you one day and said, "Listen, I love food. I want to cook," would you tell them no? What about the teenager who's still trying to figure out their life? Would you tell them that they couldn't do it? What about the person who's already established within their career and maybe wants to try something new? Would you tell them that it's too late? The truth is, these are all the same person. And for me, I've been surrounded by so many amazing individuals that have fueled the fire of passion and hospitality within me to make the future bright. But here's the problem. The future of hospitality simply is not bright enough. The future of hospitality can only be bright if we start investing in this young talent. And when I say young, I am specifically referring to those who are college age and below, but I want all of you to take a moment to think back to that person who was the younger version of yourself, that person who had that passion and drive and desire to do something outside of the box. I'm gonna be giving you a framework on how to invest in this young talent called BET, B-E-T. Believing, equipping, and teaching. Now, when we take a bet on something, we are probably taking a chance and we're not quite sure what the outcome might be. But I'm here to assure you that this bet that you will take on yourself and on this young talent is one that I can assure you will be impactful and positive. So let's start with B, believing. Believing means taking someone's word for truth. We use this concept of belief in some of the small and complex parts of our daily life, like believing in our alarm to wake us up in the morning, to believing in gravity to prevent us from flying. But how do we transform this idea and this concept of belief into something that is tangible and genuine for another person? I started cooking at home at a very young age, and I remember asking my parents if I could cook a meal for them. So they bought all the ingredients for me. I asked them to get dressed up, and I cooked this 3-course dinner, and still asked for them to pay at the end. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I wouldn't have been able to do that if they didn't give me that first enthusiastic yes. You can imagine my excitement when it was time to go to high school. If you're not familiar with the New York City public high school system, there's a couple ways that you can get in, around the same way that you can apply for college. So sometimes you have to take an exam to get in, sometimes it's zoned to your specific community, and sometimes it's a lottery. So when I heard about Food and Finance High School, New York City's only public culinary high school, I knew I need to be in that classroom seat. So in 8th grade, when I told my teachers, I want to go to Food and Finance, I want to cook, I was met with, "But Chayil, you're so smart." Or, "But Chayil, that industry doesn't make any money." And then when I told my friends at the time that I wanted to go to Food and Finance, they said, "Chayil, maybe you should try business instead. And we pulled out that 700-page high school directory and started bookmarking the pages that specialized in business. I went home that day crying to my mom saying, I can't believe that maybe all that I thought that I was good for or all that I thought I wanted to do wasn't true. I don't know if this is something that I want to continue. And she stopped me and she said, well, what does God say? Or in other words, what do you know to be so undoubtedly true about your purpose and your passion that you can't just let it go? I applied to Food and Finance High School, and I got in. And it was probably the best decision that shaped the trajectory of my life for good. On my first day of school, I met Chef Burgos, who was our chef culinary instructor for the freshman year class, and he had the tallest chef hat that I had ever seen. It looked like it was scraping the top of the ceiling ever so slightly. And in our class, we went around in a circle, and he asked us what we wanted to do when we graduated. I started talking about how I wanted to own my very own restaurant, and I thought that it would stop there. But then he kept asking questions. What restaurant do you want it to be? Where do you want it to be? And we kept talking and talking and talking. He did this for every single student in that classroom, and we were there for about 90 minutes talking about the passions of other people and what they wanted to do. All it took was one enthusiastic yes. Yes to my parents saying that I can help them out in the kitchen. Yes to myself saying that, yeah, I want to go to Food and Finance High School. Yes from Chef Burgos for affirming my dreams and aspirations. In order to believe in somebody, you have to trust them. Do not just guide these individuals based off of what is a financial gain that will help their socioeconomic status or what is perceived as a quote-unquote good job. But do base that belief and your encouragement of other people on their individual personalities and passions. Listen to them. When you go the other route, you're already assuming that the person who took that chance to be vulnerable with you and share that passion with you, that they will already be unsuccessful in what they do. Believing means affirming enthusiastically. Recognize that person's ability to think outside the box. Recognize that person's ability to share that portion of yourself and be brave. It all starts with a yes. Next, we have E, equipping. So when you start a job, you have all the tools that are necessary to go into what you need to do. So if you're working in a restaurant, you have your knife kit, you have your chef uniform, you have the recipes that you need to produce. And it's the same way for when you're equipping young talent as well. For me, I was equipped with so many opportunities, not only jobs or scholarships or internships, but support, a supportive network that helped me along the way. Sean had mentioned Food Education Fund, and I'm so happy that they're there joining us today to hear everybody and everybody's passions and everybody's stories. But I met Chef Eliza, who was the director of the program at the time, and she asked me, Chayil, what do you really want to do? What do you want to try out? And at that time, I said, well, I kind of want to try out food science. And she said, okay, sure. So there goes that enthusiastic yes again. That summer, at 15 years old, I was placed in the Cornell Hydroponics and Aquaponics lab, where I was learning how to propagate plants, learning how to take the pH water of fish, and also showing some students how to grow plants without water. When I went back to school and Chef Eliza asked me how was it, I said, well, I kind of don't want to be a scientist anymore. And she said, okay, that's fine, so what do you want to do? And I said, well, I really want to try my best at working in a restaurant. And she said, okay, sure. And I was introduced to Chef Lena. Woo! We love Chef Lena. At the time, she had worked at Marta, but now she is the executive chef in Union Square Cafe, one of the best restaurants in the world. And she took me in and she said, well, do you want to take a try at the restaurant? And I said, yeah, sure. And all I had was maybe a week's worth of pastry knowledge and a lifetime supply of watch chopped cooking competitions. So make sure to put that on your job resumes. So while I was there, I learned everything from making sourdough to making pizza dough to making gelato and everything in between. But they trusted me to do that real work. Sadly, in 2020, we all know the restaurant industry was taken by storm, and it wasn't the way that it was in the past. But thankfully, for Food Education Fund and Food and Finance High School, I was able to continue my culinary education online. My friends and I, at the time, we really wanted to make a difference in our community, and thanks to some folks at Cherry Bomb Magazine as well, and the folks at Food Education Fund, we were able to create Pass The Spatula magazine, the first student-run magazine from Food Education Fund to highlight chefs of color in the industry. It was an amazing project. My role was to create the cover of this magazine, so I learned everything in Adobe Suite and InDesign. We did every single thing in that magazine, from writing the stories to taking the photos to interviewing the people. And again, they trusted us to be able to do this without having any type of experience at all. Later on, we got featured in Food and Wine magazine, then the Drew Barrymore Show, and then the New York Times, which was something that we never thought that we could do. The goal of sharing these stories is to show that it's important to give real work. Again, when I'm talking about someone being equipped, yes, those jobs are important, but every single one of you in this room have something to offer. Whether that's sharing your story, whether that's giving your email to some of the students, whether that's just listening to what somebody wants to do later in life. All of these ways of equipping someone really help them out within the future. And for me, when I was equipped with that supportive system, with that network, and all of those opportunities, it affirmed to me that even the smallest amount of experience, even the smallest amount of passion, is just as important as someone who has been in the industry for a long time, or someone who has the largest amount of passion. So that was really impactful for me. Equipping is like building an IKEA table. You have all the ingredients, all the tools, but I hope some of you do read the instructions, which are really important. And that's where teaching comes into play. Now, teaching is not necessarily what you think if you're teaching someone or lecturing someone within a classroom, but it's the way that you live your life. I will be sharing a story of an actual teacher that I had within my time. I'm now a senior at the Cornell School of Hotel Administration. Thank you. Thank you. And I've appreciated my time so much there and grown to be so confident, but I haven't always started that way. I started off in the pre-freshman summer program, which was an opportunity for people to gain a couple credits and figure out what we were doing within college before we actually got there. And the first class I took was microeconomics. Now, I don't know if any of y'all have taken a microeconomics class, but for me, as my first college class, it was dreadful. The way the supply and demand curves interacted, I just couldn't figure it out. The equilibrium, it chased me in my dreams. But it was always great to see that my professor really loved what she did and really took the time to understand students and make sure that we understood the concepts as well. So one day, I had asked her to help me on a concept, and she described opportunity costs to me in terms of dried mangoes and Oreo cookies. And I got it. Once she was able to translate that idea to me, and I had that aha moment, I was able to look back at her. And seeing that expression on her face felt the same way that I felt when I would cook for somebody. It felt the same way that I felt when I was that 5-year-old child throwing ingredients into a pot and breathing for the very first time. I had the opportunity to see her a few times after that class, and you can see the joy oozing from her being. And although I'm no master economist yet, I found a way to see the world of food and hospitality through the realm of social science, which is something that I never thought I can do, and something that was made possible through her exuding her love and passion for what she does through the classroom. The goal of teaching is not to make somebody just like you, not to make somebody with the same passions, the same dreams, the same motives, but is to show somebody what following through looks like. Now that I'm at the hotel school, I've been able to meet so many people and so many professors who have inspired me to do so many different things. I've changed my mind a dozen times a day on what my career would be. And the reason why is because I've been able to see my professors and see people who are in those roles who actually like what they're doing. So I've pictured myself on red carpets, I've pictured myself on TV, I've pictured myself in restaurants, and I've pictured myself even in my own room. And to me, I know that it's achievable, not only because I saw that somebody did it, but I saw that they also enjoyed it. You can enjoy your passions, and it's okay to follow through with that. People pay attention to what you do. When we think about this next generation, do we want to build people who only reminisce about what their passions were and what they could have done? Do we only want people who reminisce about what their dreams were and how they weren't able to accomplish them? Now, I'm so happy that the Food Education Fund students are here and can see myself and all the speakers and everyone in the crowd as you live your life of worth and knowledge that you did what you wanted to do and what you said that you would. So before I'll close, I give a message to my Food Education Fund students. I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm so proud of you. We gave this framework to the entire audience to say what is necessary in order to create this generation of people who will make the future of hospitality bright. But in order for this to work, you have to believe in yourself. You have to not take no for an answer. And know, again, what your passions are, and don't let anybody take it away from you. We all believe in you here, and I'll be the first to say that I'm excited to see what you do. So you want the future to be bright. You'll bet. B, believing. Giving that enthusiastic yes. Being genuine and being affirming of all of those passions. This is something that you can do today. E, equipping. This doesn't only look like giving a job, giving an internship, giving a network connection, but it looks like paying attention, listening, giving your email, giving your business cards. I challenge all of you to talk to the Food Education Fund students today, talk to someone new, listen to their story, and affirm and believe in what they have to say and equip them with the right tools that you can provide. And last is teaching. Reflect on your life. How proud would a younger you be seeing where you are today? That's the feeling that we want to evoke when we're investing in this young talent. So to close things off, I'll leave you all with a definition. In African American vernacular, the term bet means that something will happen for sure. So that means if I say, oh my gosh, we're gonna go to the welcome conference, I'll say, okay, bet, you got it. Or, oh my gosh, we're gonna be millionaires, I would say, okay, bet, because it's true, we will. So we're gonna do a little call and response. And I'll say to you, the future will be bright, and I want you to say, all right, bet. Thumbs up? All right. The future is bright. Thank you so much.